morning.
Good morning.
Sometimes we watch the technology do things that we can't quite explain. So welcome to Daily Dose. Happy Monday. Full summer. Love it.
It is definitely summer.
So we're talking today about an interesting experience we had yesterday. We were invited to brunch, which was so glorious.
It was kind of spectacular.
Not kind of. Don't become a full Midwestern, Dr. Mary.
Oh, okay.
Midwesterner, Dr. Mary is where I was going with that. It was very spectacular.
It was brilliant, actually.
So we got to our friend Ernest's house, and everything was great. We'd not been there before, so we were looking at his art, which is incredibly interesting, and talking, and he was mixing up some kind of orange juice drink, was all I knew for certain. And as I'm watching him do this, and I'm walking around looking at the art, and the four of us are talking, I'm thinking, does Ernest know Maz doesn't drink? How do we navigate this? And I start to create this scenario in my head of like, ooh, this is gonna be awkward. How do we talk about this? Is it gonna be embarrassing to have to say, oh, Maz doesn't drink? Are we gonna need to go on and on about it? Do we just say he doesn't drink and that's that? What if I pick up his glass, he picks up my glass? I mean, I went 0 to 60 fast for no real reason. Okay, so we're back at the little island. Ernest has finished mixing up the drink. He goes to the freezer and he pulls out 4 beautiful shot glasses. And that ratchets me up from 60 to 80. And he puts them down, and I am in my head going, what am I gonna do? 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 And everyone else is seemingly calm. I look over at you, you're calm as a cucumber. I am like, Ernest pours the drinks, moves 2 towards us, and do you remember what he even said?
He actually said,
I do.
Time for our brunch shot.
Yes, and he said, you have to drink it in one go.
Yeah.
And I went, nope, not for you. And I reached out and I grabbed the little shot glass that was in front of Maz and I moved it away from him.
At warp 7.
At warp speed, ludicrous speed if you are a Spaceballs fan. And Ernest and Tanya, who were with us, both went, there's no alcohol in that.
Knocked it over.
I knocked it over, made a mess on the counter, and said, oh, of course there isn't. Maz, you can have this. Okay, so all of that happened, I don't know, in 90 seconds maybe. And I'm telling you this, we're telling you this, because I think there are a number of things at play here. One, when Maz was drinking, well, let's go back even further to just me as a human being. And you just be quiet about this, please. I like to control things. Well done. And when Maz...
Good thing about summer is flowers keep on folding.
I know, it's almost our 13th wedding anniversary, so I thought I should share that with you now. Anyway, I like to control things.
It's the spice.
And I really controlled things when Maz was drinking. I felt constantly like I was both the boots on the ground, sort of patrolling the space, looking around like a Secret Service agent, and I was the bird's eye view, sort of observing how are people interacting with Maz? How is Maz moving through this environment? What should I do to make this easier? How should I buffer him or them from him saying or doing something awkward? I was constantly in both places, and it was freaking exhausting, and it made me unpleasant because I never got to just be there in the moment at the event enjoying it, because there really was nothing to enjoy for me. So it was a very awkward moment when I realized that for no real reason, I went right back into boots on the ground and bird's eye view. And it was in part because we were in a new home. We had not been to Ernest's home before. And while we talk about Maz's alcoholism all the time, I don't know who's paying attention to Daily Dose. There are a few of you who we know are tried and true, reliable fans of the show. And then other times, someone completely random will say something. Let's just stop this story for a minute. Will you please tell the story of when you called the records office or something the other day at MSUM?
Oh, yeah, I
love this. And I don't think we've talked about this.
I was just phoning up to ask about, I think I was phoning up to thank him because I got an email saying that my Scantrons are ready. So I just phoned up to say, yeah, I filled in the form. Thanks again for doing this because you were stopping it during COVID and I had to get permission from my dean to do my class that way. And the person on the other end of the phone said, "Oh right, are you Maz married?" I said, "Yes, I am." And they said, "I just got to tell you now while I have you that I love what you and your wife do, and I listen almost every day, and I think you're doing a great job." Just totally out of the blue.
Random person. And so, I love that story because it's a really nice affirmation that we're not just getting on live stream for ourselves, which I appreciate, and for my mom and Ann and Sandy and John. But
though you are our favourites. We're not supposed to have any, but we do.
But Maz does. So, so let's go back to brunch. So we're there. I've now spilled the juice. Everyone very calmly is sort of like, yep, no alcohol, Dana, obviously. And I can't still, so we're almost 24 hours past it. I still don't know what put me in that mindset. What caused me to slip back 4 years and 4 months into this whole previous life that I have not witnessed, we have not experienced since you came home. Not for 1 second. So, it's curious to me that life experiences stay with us. The good, the bad, the hard, the joyful. Think about the moments, could be years after someone you loved has died, and something triggers something. You may not even be conscious of what caused it, but you find yourself sad all over again, or crying, or mourning the loss of that person. Or, how often are you sitting at a stoplight or, doing something mindless, and something funny from 35 years ago crosses your mind and you laugh all over again at it. So I don't mind that it happened. I mind how I responded to it. I'm surprised that I kind of lost control of myself, because that's the interesting thing. And it's really possible that a lot of people from our lives pre-Maz's sobriety would say, oh, you lost control of yourself then too. It wasn't that you were doing such an excellent job of controlling Maz Mary. You were doing a poor job of controlling yourself, trying to control everything. So I think there's some real value in, again, being reflective of what causes stuff to bubble up to the top. And in this case, I don't know what it was. I mean, I guess I can say it was the unknown environment, the shot glasses, you know what I mean? Sort of the expectation that we're going for grown-up brunch. Of course there will be alcohol there.
Grown-up brunch.
Because when is the last time you went somewhere where there wasn't alcohol? It is such a norm now that I think that's part of what fed my anxiousness, which I didn't realize I was until I dumped the juice. So I wanted to talk about this today, and I guess do 98% of the talking, because, you know, the addict's not the only one who goes through this. And the addict's not the only one who continues to evolve and grow and sometimes step back in an effort to step forward, or step sideways in an effort to keep going down the path. It really is relational. It really is, everybody who's part of it is part of it, has their own lens on it, their own experience with it, and we all have to figure out how we come out of it. And I don't mind that this happened, because it can be easy to get lulled into almost forgetting that it even ever happened in our lives.
There is, I mean, there's a continuing story, underlying story of almost all of the AA meetings I go to, when the people at the meeting complain about their spouses or significant others, you know, saying it doesn't, you know, well, they seem like they don't trust me. Well, you know, some of you might be listening to this going, well, couldn't I have obviously would have made the choice to say, you know what, is there any alcohol in this? Which is a fair thing to say, and that's exactly what I was going to do. But just as a piece of advice, keep that in your head and say, yes, what on earth is Dana doing? She seems to be having an odd moment, but she's having that odd moment because of me. It's my fault that Dana had that reaction. So, you know, do you get annoyed with it? No, it's not really your fault. That to me was, no matter how you portrayed it as, oh my God, boots on the ground, eyes in the air, all that stuff. It was a knee-jerk reaction, but there was a blind panic, but beneath that there was a concern and a kindness. And maybe you could think of it, if you wanted to be a tool, and say, well, there was no trust. You didn't trust me, but that's not what was going through your mind. There was no malice there.
No, it really wasn't that I didn't trust that Maz wouldn't drink. It was, I sort of gave into this weird societal, like, what will people think if we have to explain it? It was just such an odd, unexpected reaction that I am still, a day later, really trying to figure out what made me do that.
Yeah, I mean, it may even be part of the reason what it's probably a natural thing that would happen if we start talking about this 5 days a week too.
Say more. I don't know what you mean.
You know, you're always going to be, if the more you talk about it, the more it's present in your mind. So you're always going to be thinking about it. So things like this, you know, are obviously going to happen. Again, you know, I'm not a psychiatrist. If you are a psychiatrist watching this, you could be thinking, yeah, you're talking out of your butt. I don't know, but that's what I think. I mean, but from my point of view, to tell someone who's the addict trying to get over it, if you're the person with you does something like that, just, you know, try and remember, take a breath and don't lose your cool. It's ultimately your fault, and they're just having a little bit of a panic reaction to it. And if you talk about it gently enough, you get down to the problem, and then you can move on from there, because an addiction does affect more than one person. It's one of those weird diseases where everyone can be traumatized by it. And it's slightly different to someone coming to an end of life situation, I think.
Actually, what I'm thinking as we're talking about it is, it's fascinating that I am trying to figure out, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, that I'm trying to figure out how to step away from wine pretty much entirely, because it just doesn't work for me very well anymore. And I'm really having a hard time with that. It's hard to sit with donors and have a wine and cheese meeting and not drink. It's hard to go to brunch. It's hard because I like it, and because there is some general expectation that, of course, I can drink. And if I'm not drinking, what does that say about me? So, very, very complex, actually, what happened yesterday. And I'm only realizing it because you indulged us, you indulged me, and let me start to work through this with you on Daily Dose. So there's definitely more to unpack here.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with you, absolutely nothing to do with you, and all sorts of things to do with me. And that's okay and a little bit uncomfortable and an interesting place to be. So I think we will leave you with that. I'm not going to post tomorrow's ingredients because I'll write out what you should have, but we're not going to use almost anything of what you should have. I'm going to.
Now I'm intrigued of what on
I'm
earth
going
is
to.
happening.
I'm going to venture out into making up drink land, and we're going to use a drink that we love as inspiration. But I don't think I'm going to use a single actual ingredient from it because we've got some other stuff that I want to use up. So on that happy note, join us in the kitchen tomorrow. Thanks for listening. If you have thoughts on this, we would really love to hear them. Either thoughts in response to my weird reaction, in response to Matt, whatever you are thinking about, we'd love to hear them, to have a little bit of a conversation going. So put them in the comments.
Please, yes.
And we will see you tomorrow. Bye.
See you tomorrow.